Welcome into the halftime show. Tyler Head along with you on your Football Friday here on the game. Terry Ford be along with me on just a moment as we get set for the weekend that is in college football. Not as much juice around the Carolina game this weekend, obviously, as you get set to take on a Wofford team. And again, I understand where people in the fan base come from with the trying a pretty evenly matched Clemson team. A team that's one spot ahead of you in the college football rankings and one that still has their own aspirations of trying to get to the not only the ACC championship game, but the college football playoff as well. And, seeing how things end up shaking out with that over the next couple of weeks. But we got all the time in the world to dive into that, obviously coming up next week. I think it's important with this game tomorrow, and again, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that, you really need to watch out for this guy or need to watch out for that guy, because again, Carolina should be able to handle their business pretty routinely against this Wofford team that's sub 500 at the FCS level, and one that's not even faced an FBS opponent to the point this season that as long as, Lenore Sellers isn't standing on his own 1 yard line, just handing the ball to them, Carolina should be okay. But I go back, this being the 11th game of the regular season, I think it's important to go back and look to the past handful of years, to last year, and where this team was compared to where they are now. Again, last year, Carolina had their over October, and they came in the month of November sitting at 2-6 on the year, knowing that just to get to a bowl game, just to get a 13th game, they were going to have to run the table through Jacksonville State, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, and Clemson. And in the first two games of November, they beat Jacksonville State in a closer game than most people wanted it to be, and they beat Vanderbilt. And they rolled into game number 11 against Kentucky, knowing they had to win that one, and then Clemson to get themselves to a bowl. And obviously went out there and were able to beat Kentucky with Rattler finding Leggett on that touchdown late. To put them over and win that game 17-14. But, compare that feeling of having your back up against the wall, of knowing you have to win down the stretch just to get to a bowl game, to where we're at now in 2024, where you're ranked 18th. It's not a great shot. You still have a percentage chance, low percentage chance, but a percentage chance to get in the playoff if the dominoes fall the right ways in front of you, which they could with how chaotic this college football season has been. I'm not banking on it, but it's something that could happen. It's a night and day difference from where you were a year ago. And I know, we kind of get caught up in the rush of the season, and it's not as easy to reflect on things really until the offseason rolls around and say, man, that was a good year, that was a bad year, or whatever it may end up being. But for this week in particular, again, when you have a lesser opponent, as we like to call them, I do think it's important to be able to kind of look back to where this team was a year ago compared to where they were now and say, we're in a much better place. Not that there was hot seat conversation a year ago, but going into this season, we knew that, man, if Carolina fails to miss a bowl game for the second year in a row, it fails to make a bowl game for second year in a row, those uncomfortable conversations would start in the offseason between 24 and 25 about what's the future of this program. That's not even remotely close to a conversation right now, because Carolina is not only in a good place, but they're playing some of the best football in the entire country right now. Obviously, you have to account for losses, which is why Carolina is ranked where they are. But man, if we were just going off of teams that are surging at the right time towards the end of the season, Carolina is absolutely, at minimum, a top 10 team, right? Because they are playing their best football down the stretch. The defense has been good the entire season for the most part. The offense is really hitting its stride right now with Lenore Sellers, a redshirt freshman quarterback, truly coming into his own. And again, last year you had a very good quarterback that's playing in the NFL now in Spencer Rattler, but you didn't have the help around him that you needed across the board. Again, you had a first-round receiver like Xavier Leggett, but it was kind of, for the most part, a two-man show on offense because the offensive line was really bad. The running game wasn't there consistently. You had some other guys in the past game that were helping you out. Trey Knox, Miriam Brown when he was healthy, but it wasn't anything consistent outside of what Leggett was giving you. And look, the past game is still not perfect, and we still don't have an ace number one overall wide receiver so far this year, but you're in a good place, and you're in a place where you can build going into next year as well. You're going to get back Nick Harbor. You're going to get back, Jared Brown. You're going to get back some of these guys. Obviously, Mazio Bennett is a true freshman this year. You're going to get those guys back, and what they've been able to do so far this year is something to build off of, as is with this entire team as well. You have accomplished a lot this year, and albeit you're going to go into the offseason wondering what could have been with the LSU game and the controversy there, what happened at the end of the Alabama game, and if things kind of fall the right way, then we're not talking about being a fringe playoff team. We're probably talking about Carolina being actually in the playoffs. But again, you've taken significant steps forward from where you were a year ago to where you are today. And again, I think it's just important to have moments to reflect on that when you encounter a team like Wofford that, again, should not present too much of a threat to Carolina, and you should be able to walk away with a comfortable victory, in addition to honoring your seniors. And this is such a special senior class for Coach Beamer because, and look, every senior class is special, and there are guys that, have spent 4 and 5 years at programs that are always going to be honored, and rightfully so. But this year's class in particular is the last one to feature guys that were here before Coach Beamer took over as head coach. Boogie and Tonka and Vershawn Lee and Alex Herrera at kicker. Guys like this that were recruited by Coach Muschamp and signed on to play for Coach Muschamp. And then, halfway through, 3/4 of the way through their chaotic freshman year of COVID, well, guess what? We fired your coach and bringing in this new guy that most of those outside of Boogie didn't really know all that well. And Coach Beamer, has already talked about it this week, how much those guys meant to him. And it's going to be, I know he says he's an emotional guy crying at, movies and stuff like that with his kids, but it's going to be an emotional day tomorrow for a lot of those guys. And as Beamer, advocated for, get there early, get in your seats around 3:30 or so, because they have a lot of seniors. One, they're the second most senior team in all of college football. And these guys deserve their praise and deserve their honor for being a part of this and believing what Beamer was selling and being a part of this process to build you to the point where, again, you're not exactly where you want to be because you would love to have won a couple more games this year and actually be in the playoffs, but you're 18th and you still have a mathematical chance to get yourself in if things fall the way in front of you. And again, it's very clear to everybody that Beamer is building something here, and those guys were foundational pieces for being a part of that transition.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it is they're always going to look. All your players are special, obviously, like all your kids should be special to you. But these guys will be a little bit more special because they were in the beginning. They were the ones that were there right in the get-go. Again, Shane told the story about, I showed up, met with them. They didn't have to hang out with me, but they did. And they didn't leave, and they've been here through the whole beginning of the Shane Beamer era. And, again, those guys will always have a little special place in Shane's heart. Totally understandable. Totally understandable. And it'll be emotional for him as well as the players before it's all said and done. So, yeah, that'll be an emotional time, not just for the players, but for the ball coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's going to be a long ceremony, so get your tailgating done early, get your seats,
seniors.
and again, give these guys their just praise. And I was debating this earlier because, again, you have guys that have been here for a long time. You have guys that have been a lot of this program. But you also have guys like Kennard that have come in and just wreaked havoc in 1 year. Who gets the loudest cheers tomorrow?
I think Kennard gets a real loud cheer because of like what he's done this year. Who's going to get a long cheer? We'll give you a little something. Luke Doty.
Yeah, now I think doesn't he actually have an option for another year technically?
Technically, yeah, because of COVID. I think he's got, but is he going to hang another year?
I don't know. Gamecock Central has their scholarship breakdown, he's listed as like a redshirt junior. So if he wanted to, I think technically he could return for another year. It's up to him if he wants to, but if he is honored as a departing senior tomorrow, yes, he'll get a very loud cheer.
Whether it's this year or next year, when Luke goes, Luke will get a nice, big, large, gigantic cheer.
Yeah, the place will go nuts. Again, he's the, for as much as college football's changed, he's kind of that quintessential, I love this program, play for the name on the front of the jersey, not the back of the jersey type guy. And, he loves Carolina and has wanted to be a part of it every single year.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We see this in sports and professional, college, whatever. There's a guy who just connects with the fan base for whatever reason that goes above like maybe what his performance has been on the field for the team, right? And this is Luke Doty. Yes, he had injuries early in his career, kind of derailed the quarterback thing. Spencer Rattler came in, and then Lennar Sellers came in, and it was like, okay, move Luke to wide receiver. Well, some other people have come in at wide receiver, and Luke has gone down the depth chart there, but he stayed. He didn't transfer to go somewhere else to play quarterback or play wide receiver. He stayed because he loves the university and loves being in Columbia.
And, I get a sense of how much Doty means to the fan base here because early on in the season, and again, we haven't, I said a moment ago, still haven't established like a number one breakout guy in the wide receiver room. And I can't tell you how many people called or texted in asking like, why isn't Luke Doty getting more touches? Why isn't Luke Doty featured more in the pass game? And the simple answer is he's, for one, wasn't a wide receiver by trade. He was making the transition as a way to help out the team using his athleticism. But the fact that people say, hey, why isn't this guy getting more run as a, backup quarterback turned wide receiver, I think kind of shows you how valuable he is to people in this fan base.
Absolutely. I mean, he never had the DeCarrion Joyner Bowl moment like DeCarrion Joyner did. But DeCarrion Joyner's kind of on the same road. Never could find that fit to where he could be a full-time game player, game changer, playmaker. But he stayed the whole time. After that Mayo Bowl, Tyler, when Joyner had such a great game and was MVP and all that, I mean, once Spencer Rattler was coming, I mean, Joyner could have said, I'm gone. I quarterbacked, the Mayo Bowl. I did this and that in the Mayo Bowl. I'm going to see if I can parlay that to a starting quarterback gig anywhere else. No matter what level, I want to go be a starting quarterback. Joyner stayed. He didn't leave. And there's a value to any fan base when guys do that. Because, look, we all as fans want loyalty, right? That's what we want. And when you see it, especially today where you see it less and less in everything in sports, it kind of gives you the warm fuzzies more than maybe ever before. All right, halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, Shane Beamer. Some thoughts from Shane, including an injury report and some other things from last night's Carolina calls with Todd Ellis. That is next on the halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head on the game. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head. As we go till 3 on a Football Friday here on the game.
Offensively, they got a 6'5" quarterback that's athletic, can run and throw, and they have another quarterback they bring in to run the ball a little bit as well. It's a couple physical running backs, and offensive line to me is athletic, and they've got some receivers that really have really good ball skills and can make plays. And then, defensively, they play hard. I'm impressed with 2 of their corners. They're athletic guys, and then they've got a couple guys on the defensive line that are good football players and cause trouble. And they're good on special teams. They're going to make us work. I mentioned it Tuesday. Just this season alone, Todd, they've faked a punt. They've faked 2 field goals. They've done a surprise onside kickoff. This is their last game, so they don't have anything to hold back. So we know we'll get their best shot, and our guys are going to be excited to be back in Williams-Brice Stadium one more time. And key for us is just handle the unexpected, because we know we'll get that from them. And then the other key will be for our fans to be there early and be loud and send these guys out the right way, our seniors.
I counted 5 cliches in that about a minute and 10 seconds. Good team. Noted on physical attributes, 6'5" quarterback. They play hard.
I love that one.
They're athletic. They got good football players. That doesn't really tell me anything. That's kind of interchangeable, but I counted 5 cliches.
I like it. And that was in minute 9.
Yeah.
Shane, excellent. Look, again, we always laugh about it. Give me a chair to lean on because it's fun, right?
Sure.
We all know what's up. We all know what's up, but it's always fun to, they got football players. They're grinders. High effort. They got some athletes.
Yep.
Did a fake punt.
Man, when they played Gardner Webb earlier on this year, it's like, Coach, it's Gardner Webb. Come on now, a little different.
It is. It's always interesting, and we all understand it.
We do, and
we all get it.
Again, no coach is ever going to come out and say this team sucks. We're going to beat them by 50 points, and I want to make sure the third string water boy gets a snap at quarterback before the day's over.
And that's the thing, and we all know. Because, again, this is the Murphy's Law of life, and this is when karma comes and bites you. If a coach would get up and do that, as highly entertained as we would all be, as refreshing that would be, that a coach got up and said, seriously? We'll beat these cats by at least 40. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to put my son in the game in the second half, and he's 10. Of course they're never going to do it because the karma gods and you're superstitious. You might be one of the 3 most superstitious people I've ever met.
That would be the time. And it wouldn't be like they got outplayed. It'd be like, the ball bounced a funny way, and the quarterback got Gatorade on his fingers in the break and fumbled the ball or threw an interception or whatever it may be. Something weird would happen, and that would be the time that they would lose. Goofiness
would ensue, and the football gods would frown upon you. And you don't want to make the football gods angry.
Yeah, nobody wants to be that guy the first time.
Because so that's why no one does it. We get it. We understand. We've all put ourselves in some way, shape, or form in that position, whether out loud or mentally, and it didn't work out the way we thought it was going to work out. We walk away going, oh.
Yeah, there's a thing about calling your shot. That if it doesn't work, people are like, thought pretty highly of yourself, didn't you?
Calling your shot and it's an air ball? Yeah, you don't want that.
Yeah, so, you don't point towards the fence and then strike out.
It's not good. Or the guy that takes the 3 and turns his back like he made it and it's an air ball.
Yeah.
That guy. You just don't. Or my new favorite, the guy that's running to the end zone by himself and lets the ball out of his hand at the 1-yard line.
Listen, I'm not even a football coach, and that drives me up a wall.
Oh, yeah.
You're running 10 miles in practice on Monday. I don't care.
Yes. You are going to run.
Holding a football the entire time.
Yes. I'm like you. I watch it and I go, why? Just why?
How?
What are you doing here? There's a goal line. This isn't like the TV first down line that we joke, why can't you see it? There's a goal line there. It's painted. You see it. Just run in there.
If I'm a football coach, my philosophy, I don't care if you're a 5-star, if you're a walk-on, if you do not hold the football until you get to the back of the end zone and set it down or hand it to the referee, you're doing 100 push-ups when you get back to the sideline. I don't care. I don't care if you caught it in the middle of the end zone and you're already on the ground. If you let go of that football before you touch the end line, then 100 push-ups.
Well, you're already 100 push-ups with the nose tackle sitting on your shoulders.
Exactly. You're gonna remember to hold on to that football next time.
I am going to make you so miserable. You will never do it again.
The entire team's going to see that. So the next time they run in a touchdown, they're going to touch the back line as well.
Exactly. Because that shows everybody.
Exactly.
Don't let that be you.
Exactly.
All right. Shane talked with Todd Ellis from Carolina.
That's why I don't get high-star recruits in my school.
Yeah, you recruit like crap. All right, cut 5. Shane talking about the seniors, and this is a big day. And for Shane and the seniors, we talked about it for a few minutes in the opening riff. Here's Shane talking about the seniors that will be honored on Senior Day tomorrow.
Gonna get him emotional.
Yeah, dang it, man. I can say a lot. Great question, first of all. Thanks for being here tonight. We always, on Thursdays, we always practice in our indoor facility. It's just what we've done. And had those guys that stood up that were here in December 2020 when I got hired, because back then that was in the height of COVID, and you couldn't have your team meetings in a meeting room. You had to do it in, spaced out and all that stuff back then. So the very first team meeting I ever had was in the indoor facility. That was South Carolina got beat by Kentucky on a Saturday night up in Lexington. During the game, it was announced that I was going to be the next head coach. Flew to Columbia the next morning, and the first thing I did was go get to meet the football team in the indoor facility. And we were literally in that same end of the field this morning, and after practice this morning, and I just had those guys stand up that were in that meeting, because it seems like yesterday, but you think about all those guys have been through since that point. But not even leading up to that point. They were freshmen that year, and the coach they came to play for was no longer going to be their coach, and they easily could have gone somewhere else and played for somebody, because none of those guys knew me. I knew Boogie a little bit because we tried to recruit him at Oklahoma, but outside of that, I didn't know anybody that's still here. And that was an emotional day getting to be here, but then being able to be here with them all 4 seasons, and they've stayed all 4 seasons along with the other seniors as well. I've just got so much gratitude and appreciation for those guys. Love them deeply, care about them, and going to miss them, but that's why I'm so adamant about sending these guys out the right way on Saturday. Great question.
Yeah, like we said in the opening riff of the show, these guys are always going to have a special place in your heart as a coach, because they were right there in the beginning. They stayed. They could have left. Mm-hmm. They stayed. Last year, guys could have left. They stayed.
In fact, a couple of these guys were rumored to be leaving, and they did not.
They did not leave. They stayed. And there's a value to that. And that's why, Shane's already said, there's movies that makes him cry. He cries over a lot of things. There's going to be some eye sweat.
Oh, sure.
With Shane Beamer on Saturday. And look, you know what? I get it. I think we all in that position will be sitting there going, okay, I got to think of something that's not going to make me cry uncontrollably right now. Especially as you get older. That's another thing. As you get older, you start to the emotions that you didn't have as a young man.
Oh, yeah.
All of a sudden, you're like, "What's this?"
You're a kid. Your mind's a steel trap. Nothing's getting in there.
Yeah, you're not emotional about stuff, and when you get older, you're like, "Whoa, what is this? I'm feeling an emotion. Oh my God, I'm not used to this.
Yeah,
I don't know if I even like it." But yeah, it's going to be and they all deserve what they're going to get on Saturday. It's just going to be a phenomenal day for all of them. All right, just in case you woke up, they played a football game in the middle of the snow yesterday. And once again, the NFL showing you why they're the NFL. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, till 3 on the game.
from the 1. Chubb scores. To the end zone goes Nick. And Cleveland takes the lead.
There was a highlight last night from Amazon, Thursday Night Football. Nick Chubb with the game-winning touchdown with under a minute to go.
So that was actually his first touchdown.
Not the first one. I thought that was the game winner.
He did score the game winner a little bit later on in the game, but no, that was his first touchdown, 1 of 2 on the night.
And Nick Chubb is not Nick Chubb, the Nick Chubb used to be.
No.
But also the offensive line is not helping Nick Chubb be Nick Chubb. But the Browns coming into this game 2-8 and 1-4 at home. The Steelers coming off a big win at home against the Ravens. The Steelers go into Cleveland against short week Thursday Night Football and do what is obvious: get beat by the Browns.
Of course. The Browns are that team, and this is why divisional matchups can be so hard to predict, because their 2 biggest wins in the past handful of games both started by Jameis Winston against the Ravens and the Steelers, 2 teams that are head and shoulders better than them, but that familiarity of playing them twice a year every single year could sometimes bite you as the better team.
If they played 10 times, the Steelers and Ravens would beat the Browns 8.
Probably.
But the Browns got them. But that's a Browns 2 home wins are against the Ravens and Steelers. 2 of their 3 wins are against the 2 best teams in the AFC North.
Yep.
And 2 of the better teams in the AFC. But that's the way this thing goes, man. It's kooky.
And really, until the fourth quarter, the Browns were continuing on that long streak of keeping the Steelers out of the end zone. Again, popped a couple touchdowns there to make it interesting in the fourth quarter. But for the most part, Cleveland kind of dominated this game on defense.
Dan Orlovsky did a breakdown of the woes of the Steelers in the red zone. Was it yesterday in the morning? And then, I think Bart Scott on SportsCenter talking about the problem in the red zone. The bottom line is, if you're going to constantly kick field goals, you're going to get beat.
Yes.
I mean, that kooky, Braswell kicked, 32 field goals against the Ravens?
Yeah.
And the reason the Steelers won that game, because let's be real, and I'm a Ravens fan, the Ravens can't beat the Steelers right now. No matter who's better on paper, no matter who's got the better record, it doesn't matter. Yeah. I really believe, Tyler, Mississippi State could put on Steeler jerseys and go play the Ravens and beat the Ravens. I really believe that at this point.
By the way, that was, I believe, against the Ravens last week in their second game this year of nothing but field goals. Mm-hmm. They beat the Falcons 18-10 to start the season.
Mm-hmm. So you're not going to do that in the playoffs.
No.
You might get 1 win out of the postseason by, struggling in the red zone the way the Steelers are, but that's going to get you. You can't play the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs and expect to go out there and kick field goals and beat those teams. You can't.
And here's the thing, and I know besides last night they've been winning with them, but Russell Wilson is not the quarterback that's going to suddenly ignite some kind of charge in your offense and go on this tear where you're scoring 35, 40 points a game. He's just not that guy anymore, no matter what kind of weapons he does have around him. And again, you're just kind of leaning on this defense. I know defense wins championships, but like I said, when you get in the postseason, it's only going to get you so far.
Yeah, and look, and the Browns, even to their credit, survive a terrible interception by Jameis Winston. Look, it was snowing. I get it. The conditions stunk. But Winston every game, Jameis is going to put the ball in danger at least 3 times. That's what he does. And he did it again last night. But to Jameis and that offense's credit, they got the ball back, went down the field and got the game-winning touchdown and beat the Steelers 24-19. Also, it's just, I don't really understand George Pickens at all.
Well,
I don't get it. He's got so much talent, so much ability.
If he was not as talented as he is, people would have given up on him a long time ago. But because he's so skilled and so athletic and talented at football, people look the other way and give him chances. And again, he probably could have used an attitude adjustment at some point up to this point, and I don't think it's ever going to happen.
He got into something on the field with the Browns corner and the fans and all this weirdness. Then after the game, he went 13-year-old Terry Ford. We lost because of the conditions and the refs. That's why we lost, because of the snow and because of the refs. Yeah, because, when the Browns had the ball, it was sunny and 80.
I would say it snowed for them, too. And this isn't a case of, Pittsburgh's not exactly in South Florida. It snows there for them, too. They're not exactly strangers to these conditions.
Right. Well, it is tropical in Pittsburgh.
Oh, of course. No, it's 85 degrees and sunny year round.
It's the Bahamas of Western PA.
It's not depressing whatsoever there.
Yeah. He also didn't get a pass interference call. And, and then he's gesturing to them after the play. And it's so sad because this cat can ball.
He can.
And he can't get out of his own way, though.
And this goes back to his days at Georgia as well, where, again, just an incredible athlete, great wide receiver, but you never went 2 or 3 games without some kind of George Pickens antics. And, it was kind of the same old song and dance of coaches saying, well, we're going to talk to him, and Pickens saying, oh, that was dumb, I learned my lesson, whatever, and then it happened again. So, again, it's just who he is at this point. Again, a good wide receiver that will continue to hang around this league as long as he's productive, but I got to imagine, kind of like, Coach Tomlin with Antonio Brown all those years, I got to imagine he just beats his head against the wall with the kind of silly stuff he has to deal with.
Yeah, and if you ever get bored, it was ESPN.com, Jeremy Fowler did a huge deep dive on Antonio Brown in general and the stuff about what went on in Pittsburgh.
Which didn't really get out for the most part. Mm-mm. They kept it under wraps, which, again, I already give Tomlin a lot of credit for what he's done as his longevity in the NFL, but the fact that we didn't know how kooky Antonio Brown was until he left the Steelers, that's credit to him as well.
The fact that, and this tells you a little bit about Tomlin on a couple different fronts, like Antonio Brown would show up late for meetings all the time, and Tomlin got to the point where they were trying to just get Brown to game day. Mm-hmm. Tomlin would let him do it. Tomlin wouldn't discipline him after a while.
He's a great wide receiver.
And I'm sure it made Tomlin crazy. And there are people that would say, well, you can't do that as a coach. I get that because with a normal player, I get it.
Yes.
First of all, this guy on the field was fantastic in his prime, right?
Yes.
2, he was a legitimate nutcase.
Yes.
Whether it was mental illness, CTE, just his personality, this dude was off.
Yeah.
Right? And so Tomlin was trying to massage to get him to Sunday. The entire Steeler organization was, let's get him to Sunday.
It is the classic case of Jimmy Johnson with the analogy of Troy Aikman falling asleep in the meeting, where you cut the guy that fell asleep in the meeting. Well, would you do that to Troy Aikman? I'd march up there and say, wake up, Troy, because certain players get treated differently because they mean more to the team.
You want to be more comfortable, Troy? You look uncomfortable while you're napping.
A warm glass of milk to help you sleep or something along those lines. That's crazy. Just football.
Yep.
Some guys are highly productive, and you're going to give them more leeway. And a guy like George Pickens is kind of in that instance where, if he was a undrafted free agent doing this kind of stuff, he's cut immediately. But because he's one of your better wide receivers on this team, you don't have to let him do these things, but you let more things slide.
Also, just in case you woke up, this just broke. More NFL. New York Giants are granting quarterback Daniel Jones' request to be released. The team announced. Giants president John Mara said the sides mutually agreed that it would be the best for both parties to move their separate ways. Jones have to go through waivers. No one's picking him up.
No. Nobody
wants that contract, even though it's, rolling out. Nobody wants any of it. The Giants, okay, here's the deal. The Giants would have been on the hook for $23 million if Jones were to sustain a serious injury and not be able to pass a physical next year. That's why I always say with these contracts, always pay attention to money at signing. Don't look at guaranteed money because X amount of that money is guaranteed for injury. You saw this with Derek Carr with the Raiders. They benched him. You saw this with Russell Wilson last year with the Broncos, or benched him. Mm-hmm. And Daniel Jones just leaving. The team doesn't want these guys on the field. They're not their future, and they know it. They don't want them on the field getting hurt. Then they're on the hook for injury guarantees.
Yep.
And that's the thing with Daniel Jones. Look, this is not a second guess. God knows I get enough things wrong every day. Daniel Jones was really good in Dable's first year. They make the playoffs. I mean, he wasn't really good. It was his best year. He really was kind of a better than average quarterback. So instead of waiting and we're going to give you a year, we're going to franchise you, let's see if you can do it again, right? No. They went nuts and gave Daniel Jones a contract they never should have, and he's been terrible ever since.
Every team is frothing at the mouth to give their quarterback, more likely than not, a contract they don't deserve.
And they did it with Daniel Jones, and it screwed him over. Firehouse Sub Text the hour 803-404-6100. That is next here on the Halftime Show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head on the game. Halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head. Time for our Firehouse Sub text of the hour, 803-404-6100. We got, man?
Yeah, talking about seniors on the team. Nameless texter says, special shout-out to senior Luke Doty. Came in as a possible saver program and stuck it out for his entire time. Great example of a leader and a real football player.
Yeah, look, in this world, because everybody's situation is different, and I always try to put myself in a situation. I mean, how would I handle it? I don't dog guys who transfer. I don't. You can. You have your situation, you transfer. I don't think you should be looked down upon for doing that in any way, shape, or form. You have the right to. The rules state you can. And if you want to transfer, like, think about if South Carolina didn't get transfers this year.
Be in a much worse spot.
Yes. So I got no issue with people transferring out.
It goes both ways.
It does. But when a guy stays, especially if he's not a starter, especially maybe if he came in, like, dude, Doty came in a top 60 recruit as an athlete / quarterback. And he hasn't consistently gotten run his entire career. Some of it was injury. But a good amount of guys in Luke Doty's position transfer out to go get on the field. Luke didn't. Luke, we've talked to him here. He's been in here multiple times doing Gamecock Club Hour.
I think he may be our most frequent flyer on that, by the way.
And he's great. He's
great.
Such a good dude.
And he hosts the 1801 media stuff. He's leading most of those interviews. Like he's good at that stuff.
It might be a future for him.
Might be a future
to be
for
honest. We talked to him here, and he loves the university.
Sure.
He loves Columbia. He's from the Myrtle Beach area, if my memory serves me.
Mm-hmm.
He's just a local guy, an in-state guy who loves the in-state school, loves his life, and that matters to him, and he wants to stay. And he's also playing football in the SEC. He might not be a starter. He might not be getting as many snaps as he wants. But you know what? He loves so many things about his life. He just wants to stay here. And a guy who stays through his entire career like that, especially in-state guy, whether he's played a lot or not,
sure,
the connection to a fan base and that L word loyalty comes up, and I totally get it.
And that's the thing, because we think about football from such a business standpoint now, and that every guy wants to try and get at the NFL and increase playing time and stuff like that. But there's some guys out there that do just enjoy the school they go to, and whatever major they're studying and thinking about their career past football. And Luke Doty seems like one of those guys when he's been asked the question of, hey, why'd you stay? I just love Carolina.
Yeah.
And again, that's just something that isn't as prevalent anymore. And again, I'm not hating on people for doing it, because it's the system. And, you know, if you have something that you think is going to benefit you by going somewhere else, by all means do it. You're well within your right to do that, and the structure of how college football works. But Luke Doty just loves Carolina. Has always wanted to be part of it, whether he was the starting quarterback or, you know, sitting on the bench as a backup wide receiver for most of the season. He just loves being a part of what this team and this program's been under Beamer for the most part. And I don't think he's ever going to have to buy too many meals in the city of Columbia if he doesn't want to as time goes on, because a community like Carolina's that is so ingrained with its football program is always going to appreciate that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. A fan base, because loyalty, the term loyalty and what we define loyalty is sticking and staying through thick and thin, not leaving your side, being with you the whole way, right?
Sure.
Well, again, players don't do that anymore. Not just, by the way, in college.
Mm-hmm.
In pro sports, you have this thing called free agency.
Yes. And if you think you can get a bigger bag somewhere else, guess what? You're going to get a bigger bag somewhere else.
But here's the flip side of that. Loyalty is a two-way street.
Yes, it is.
And in professional sports, a team will let you, like football, like Daniel Jones today. Bye, see ya. The NFL is about as many non-guaranteed contracts as humanly possible. It's about salary cap. And if three things don't fit, if performance, age, and cap hit, if two of those three are whacked, you're gone.
Yeah.
That's the cold reality of that sport.
Personal relationships don't matter. It's business transactions.
Loyalty means nothing.
Yes.
In professional sports in general. College, yeah, we'll say, well, these kids aren't loyal. Well, do you know how many programs run off kids?
Well, and until a handful of years ago, coaches were free to come and go as they wanted to. If they had a better opportunity to get more money at a different job, they could go. And, then they could immediately come in and say, well, you can transfer, but you can't transfer to these certain schools. So,
ready? You got to be loyal to me. I don't have to be loyal to you.
Exactly. The power is shifted back towards the players in a lot of ways, which, again, I'm fully in support of. It seems right in that way. Do some people abuse it? Sure. But, again, it's the structure of what we have right now, and those guys are free to use it however they see fit. But yeah, when somebody does stay amidst all the movement and change in college football, they're appreciated a little bit more.
Well, it's like anything. The longer you're around and I see you're dedicated to my cause or what I'm dedicated to as well, I get a connection with you.
Sure.
And that's what happens with guys who stay, especially a guy like Luke Doty who could have left.
Yeah.
Because of his pedigree coming out of high school, but he stayed. And this fan base does. They love themselves some Luke Doty. Like you said before.
You're never going to be able to say a bad word about him.
That's right. They love Luke Doty. And if it's this year, next year, whenever Luke Doty decides to have his senior day, he will get a nice big ovation from this fan base. There's no doubt. And he deserves it.
Yep.
All right, we'll get back to Shane Beamer and his comments on Carolina calls yesterday and more stuff. Football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. We'll get to what's going on in college football outside of the Midlands in the top 25, the SEC, and we'll sniff around some more NFL. It is the halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head till 3 on the game. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head up until 3. Yeah. Changing microphones. I hit the old one. I was rolling too, man.
Yeah. Listen, it's one of those kind of days. My headphones fell apart as I put them on for the first segment this morning. It's kind of one of those days.
Oh, yeah. We're moving some cameras around. It's all good. It's all good. We go till 3. It's a Football Friday here on the game. Of course, Jay and Elijah will be out at Columbia Craft. Our final tailgate Friday of the season at Columbia Craft, Green Street in the Vista. We'll go up, hang out 3 to 6, celebrate. It's the Fall Fest at Columbia Craft. So pop on out there today. A lot of cool stuff going on there. Plus, again, Jay and Elijah, the post-game show at 3 to 6. Also, starting Monday, Rivalry Week.
Hate Week. It's a better term for it.
Hate Week?
Hate Week.
We try to be nice and say Rivalry Week.
No, I think we hate Clemson.
We're kinder and gentler. Rivalry Week is sponsored by Columbia Craft this week, and we'll be doing a couple live shows at least. First 2 on the docket will be Tuesday from Cato's Power Equipment, 3 to 6, the post-game show. Wednesday from the Nest in the Vista, we'll be doing this little shindig from 12 to 3. So, Rivalry Week, we're going to have some tickets to give away for the Clemson game next Saturday. Also, South Carolina Clemson men's basketball tickets and baseball tickets, so be ready for that. We give women's tickets too, but they already played them.
They did. And by the way, Carolina leading the Palmetto series 2-0-2. So two wins, no losses, 2 ties.
Nice. Very nice. So that'll be next week. Rivalry week.
Say that 5 times.
Rivalry Week sponsored by Columbia Craft. Green Street in the Vista. We appreciate Andrew and the folks there for hopping in and sponsoring our lead up to Clemson next week. All right. Football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Let's get back to Shane Beamer. Shane, with Todd Ellis last night on Carolina Calls. Let's get cut to Tyler. Shane, I guess, putting a bow on what was a phenomenal Saturday last week at Williams-Brice with that win over Missouri.
Thank you for saying that and noticing that. One, the players that stepped up, absolutely. You mentioned Dale Vaughn, Brady Hunt as well. The catch he made. Vakari Swain's been playing a lot for us, but when Judge went out, Vakari and O'Donnell had to play the rest of the game every play at corner. He did great. Tree coming in as the left tackle with Josiah being out. So many guys that just stepped up. There's no question about it. The poise that our guys had. Absolutely. You know, after Missouri scored, there was no panic. There was very much a sense on the sideline with our offense of we know what the mission is and we got to go get it done. And they went out there and did it. And you're absolutely right. We got great leadership on our team. You saw that the other night throughout the game. You've seen it throughout the season, just the leadership we have on offense, defense, and special teams as well. And it's one of the reasons I knew going into the season that we had a chance to be a really good team is because of the leadership we had returning. And then Lenoris, you're absolutely right. The guy, you don't want to jinx him, but he's playing at a really, really high level right now and can be so much better, too. Nobody's, anointing him.
Yeah, we got to put a cap on that.
Yeah, he was really good. He's a great leader, great player, but he'll be the first to tell you that there's a lot of plays from the other night that he could have been better at as well.
Yeah, it was – we've talked about it all week. It's just having the guys step up who stepped up because you needed Saturday as you got into the evening, you needed some other guys to, make plays. And the mark of a winning team is when the stuff that typically works for you doesn't work. Other dudes need to step up and make plays. And that's what happened Saturday. Obviously, Lenoris was ridiculous. But Delvon Campbell, Brady Hunt, like Shane brought up, the passing game in general, run game wasn't happening. Missouri basically said, look, we know what you want to do. We're going to try to take away what you want to do. We want you to beat us another way. And to the credit of South Carolina, when you're a winning team, you find a way to get the W.
Well, and the passing game is something that obviously had been surging in the games leading up to that. If you go back to the beginning of the season. You said, okay, well, this team's going to take your run ability on the ground away. You're going to have to beat them through the air. We probably wouldn't have felt very comfortable about that, but it's something that, as many other things on the offense, have gotten better over the month of November, really kind of the back half of October, too, that we felt comfortable with that. And obviously, Lenore Sellers went out there and had his best day of his career so far.
Yeah, and that's one of those things like, okay, can't run it like we want. Defense is not playing like it typically does. Help! Somebody help! And who helped? The passing game. The receivers. You know, it's been very inconsistent this year with the receivers. There's been flashes from everybody at times. But consistent week after week from wide receivers with productivity, just it wasn't going on. There's a reason why Josh Simon and Rocket Sanders have become the top two options in the passing game for Lenore Sellers, the tight end in the back. But give those receivers credit. Jared Brown with the catch and run for a touchdown. Campbell with the two huge catch and run plays. You know, and we go back to Nick Harbor starting to pop, making some plays. You know, it just Brady Hunt coming out of nowhere.
Yep.
A lot of guys made a difference last Saturday. They haven't been consistently making a difference through the season. And that's a mark, Tyler, of a team that is a winning squad in 2024.
A team where anybody can step up at any time and make a critical play or be a critical deciding factor in a game is always huge. And again, we know Carolina's been playing its best football the back half of the season, and certainly you wish we could have had some things back from the earlier part of the year, and we could be talking about the team already being in the playoff mix as of right now. But nevertheless, and I said this to open the show before you got in here, I think perspective's really good to look at from where this team was a year ago, entering game number 11 to where they are now. Remember, they went into November at 2-6, needing to win all four of their games just to make it to a bowl game. And they had beaten Jacksonville State, they beat Vanderbilt, and we were heading into the 11th game against Kentucky. Man, it's a tough matchup, always going to be a low-scoring game, tight game as you expect, and they obviously went on to win that game and then came up short to Clemson to end the year 5-7. And here we are entering game number 11, already having clinched bowl eligibility, looking for an 8th and a 9th win in the last two games of the regular season, and still in the playoff mix, technically speaking. Not a great chance, but still a chance nonetheless, and it's a night and day difference from where you were a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, remember, you said it last year. It was like, you got to win every game in November? Really? Okay. And to South Carolina's credit, they almost did. You know, lost the last one to Clemson without giving up an offensive touchdown. But this year, now it's like, okay, is the bowl game going to be the Citrus? Is it going to be ReliaQuest? Is it going to be the Gator?
Yeah.
That's where you're at right now, which is leaps and bounds from where you were last year. And again, to the credit of this coaching staff and these players. Coaching staff in the offseason recognized the weaknesses. You had to fortify your offensive line. You had to get better pass rush. You know, you had to get some wide receivers. And you had to get a running back. You could have gone in the offseason and said, look, we're sticking with our plan. Young running backs are going to get better. The young offensive linemen are going to get better. We got a bunch of young pass rushers. They're going to get better. We got young linebackers. They could get better. You could have just stuck with, hey, we're developing young guys and we're going to stick to it. But no, they said, you know what? We got to get better now.
And I think the coaching staff, particularly Coach Beamer, knew, again, going 5-7 last year wasn't going to put him on the hot seat going in 2025 or 2024, and we knew that because you could still point to the success of what you had the year before with the upset wins, the 8-4, and all that kind of stuff. But I think he was well aware, hey, if I back up a 5-7 with another 5-7 or a 4-8, then that conversation is going to start before 2025 of what my future here is. I got to make some things happen, and they went out in the portal, and yeah, you weren't for sure what all these guys in the portal were going to be, but they saw what they knew or what they thought they needed, and it's clearly worked out.
Yeah, they recognized A, need, and B, the right players to fill the need. Because you can see need all day.
Sure.
But now you got to go get the guys to fix the need. And, you know, Shane and the crew went in the portal, improved linebacker, improved edge pass rush, improved running back, added depth to wide receiver and offensive line, and you see where you're at.
And again, we broke all these guys down as they were coming in and being announced as transferring to Carolina. And, You saw some flashes with some, but we didn't know for sure what all these guys would end up being. And now we're sitting here and, late November talking about Kyle Kennard being one of the best edge guys in the entire nation and maybe working himself into being maybe a late first round, early second round type of pick. And Demetrius Knight being a breakout linebacker that's going to have an opportunity to play at the next level. Like all these guys Torricelli Simpkins, who, again, I think people are probably the more skeptical of coming from FCS to the SEC. Like, how's that guy going to handle his own in the SEC? He's been the best offensive lineman this entire year.
Yeah, from North Carolina
Central.
And so that's a hugely – we don't talk enough about Simpkins. We really don't.
Which is a good thing.
Right.
When you're not talking about someone on the offensive line, that usually means they're doing their job pretty well.
Right. I mean, this guy has had a really good year. And it was interesting because I was looking at, was it Phil Steele? One of these, preseason draft prognostication things had Simpkins listed as like within the top 50 or 30 offensive linemen coming into this year from a pro perspective. And I was like, interesting. Is it because he just has pro measurables physically? Because it's hard to project a guy at North Carolina Central into the SEC is going to work himself into being, maybe a second-day pick or something in the NFL draft.
Yeah.
But Simpkins made a large leap. He really did. And he has held his own almost every week of this season.
Yep.
At offensive line. And he's worked himself into, he's going to hear his name in the NFL draft. I don't know where yet. I'm guessing day 2 at the most.
Sure.
Day 3, probably early day 3. And we'll see how the Underwear Olympics go for him and how he tests with all the other silliness that is the combine to help his draft position. But this guy has really done himself some good moving forward for his future, like Demetrius Knight has done, like Kyle Kennard has done. I think Rocket Sanders showed folks that when he's healthy, he's a guy that's going to get a shot to play in the NFL. I mean, just the guys that came in here in the transfer portal, a decent amount of them really did themselves some good.
They did. And look, we knew what Rocket was from his time at Arkansas, but I think a lot of people will look at somebody that's been injured as much as he has and say, is he damaged goods or can he be that guy again? And outside of, getting nicked up against Akron, he's been that guy for most of the season. And he, like Lenore Sellers, is kind of hitting his stride towards the end of the year. And brought this up earlier, it kind of depends on how much he plays tomorrow, but he's got a shot at being the first 1,000-yard rusher for Beamer here at South Carolina.
Yeah, think about it. I had somebody text, was it yesterday, about, do you think they'll give Rocket Sanders enough opportunity to get to 1,000 yards? He's got 250 to go.
251.
Yeah, 251. So he's got to average roughly 125.1 yards yards a game.
Yep.
Unless he goes nuts tomorrow. I mean, could he run over Clemson for 100? Sure, but
yeah. I think ideally you'll need him to rip off some long runs tomorrow, make like a long 70-yard touchdown or something like that, because I don't think they're going to be pounding the rock with him too much because, again, the injury concerns there. So he's going to get a few snaps, and then they'll, rest him for the Clemson game coming up next week. So I think he's going to need to break off some big runs to get you to that 125-ish mark to set you up for something similar against Clemson the next week.
Because the goal here is no injuries. Stay healthy.
And I don't think Rocket would play the bowl game because, again, the injuries, and he's done enough to prove that he can play at the next level.
I mean, that's going to be the conversation after the Clemson game is how many guys are opting out.
Yes, which, hey, it's better than talking about no bowl game at all.
Exactly, because they opt out because they've been good and they're going to get an opportunity to play at the next level.
Exactly.
And they don't want injury to hamper that situation. Football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. More from Shane. Get a little injury report from Shane this hour. Also, big game in the Big Ten, Ohio State, Indiana. Coach Sig talking to the media from the Hoosiers. We'll get that as well. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, hanging here till 3 on the game. The Nest, 1331 Gadsden Street in the Vista. We'll be there next week for Rivalry Week, noon to 3 on Wednesday. Just 70 years of experience. Whether you want to change the appliances up in the kitchen, do you want new fixtures, new lighting, a tub in the bathroom? Maybe you need plumbing. Maybe you have a plumbing situation you want to fix, and put in some new stuff there. Experience matters. Would you rather go to someone who's been in the business for 70 years or a dude who filled out an application at Home Depot and got a job because he's trying to work his way through college? And he wouldn't know a refrigerator from a microwave. Call the Nest. Set up an appointment. Give them a ring, 803-978-2025. Let them know your vision, your dreams, your goals, and your budget. And they will make it happen for you. Phenomenal showroom. Again, 803-978-2025. The Nest in the Vista. Give them a call.
more thing.
Yeah, they're doing okay. They're banged up. We'll see where they are on Saturday. Brady obviously won't play. We've already announced that. He'll be out until December, and disappointing. I mean, it was a non-contact thing, just running to try and go get a block for, I believe it was Dale Von Campbell on his long catch down the sideline. So that's unfortunate for Brady. Josh and Mike we're optimistic on, and we'll see where Jared is as we go. And much respect to Prisma Health, but we don't have an SEC availability report, so we're not going to have one tonight either.
I don't have to tell you who is available and who's not. So for the most part, I'm not going to.
I love it. I love it. And every coach feels the same way. I don't have to tell you. I ain't telling you. It's very simple. Show up at the game and see who runs on the field.
Exactly. Who's playing? The guys that are going to play.
And it's fine. Again, there are people who really get upset about all this. Whatever. It's the way coaches are wired. Giving the enemy zero. I'm giving them nothing that they can use to their advantage. Even Wofford, who I think could put 22 guys on the field against South Carolina's 11, and Carolina still beats them. Shane is saying nothing.
Yeah, and look.
And that's fine.
I feel like Carolina's been more honest with their injury reports than a lot of teams in the SEC so far this season. So I don't think they've been blowing smoke with us for the most part. And like you said, we knew Brady was going to be out after the injury that he had this past weekend. Jared's been banged up through so much of this year. Like, it's nothing too surprising.
No. And at the end of the day, the goal is to get up as fast as you can, by as many scores as you can, and then get everybody out of the game and sit them all down and get ready for Clemson.
Yep.
That's the goal. You don't want to have to fiddle around with Wofford, and all of a sudden you're in some type of ball game in the third quarter, and your ones are still out there playing.
I use this analogy in the lead up to the Akron game, which, again, Akron, one of the worst teams in the FBS, and Carolina beat them by 43 points as they should have. Be the game nobody wants to watch, because you know what happens when you're watching another game and you see on the ticker that so-and-so is in a dogfight with an FCS team or some low-end Group 5 team. Guess what? You watch that game out of the morbid curiosity of if that lower team can pull off the upset. Make this a game that nobody wants to watch outside of the Carolina fan base, because, for one, you have to go to the ESPN app instead of just flipping channels and go to the SEC network. But don't make people want to have to get on the SEC on the ESPN app to watch your game on Saturday.
No, because they'll look and go, wow, 35-0 first quarter?
Yeah, I don't want to watch that.
Forget that. That's what you want. You're exactly right. You don't want to be screwing around with Wofford, and all of a sudden you got to keep your starters in the game longer than you really anticipate.
Right.
All right, football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Coach Sig. We're going to hear from Coach Sig at Indiana here in a second. Look, Hoosiers are playing Ohio State. Games in Bloomington. Billy Connolly did a great write-up on this in his Friday post on ESPN. You know the last time Indiana had a game this big?
I know they haven't played a top 5 matchup in like 50 years.
Coming right from Billy Connolly's post. Best I can tell, this is the biggest Indiana game since November 25th, 1967. This is like greatest day in history of the world. Fullback Terry Cole rushed for a then school record 155 yards, and John Ponce Hoosiers completed a shocking turnaround from 1-8-1 to 9-1, taking down rival number 3 Purdue 19-14. Ready for this? The win earned Indiana a spot in its only Rose Bowl to date. 1967.
Yeah, it's funny how quickly things can turn around. Again, I mean, really, outside of when Penix Jr. was there, did you really hear a whole lot about Indiana football?
That was that COVID year, right?
That was the COVID year. They had I forget who they were playing, where he got the tip of the ball over the end zone.
Penn State,
that's right, Penn State. So, like, outside of that, when is Indiana football? Sure, they've pumped out good talent, Antoine Randall, guys like that we've talked about in the past, but for the most part, they're largely irrelevant. You know, they may pop a good win here or there, but, you know, when November rolls around, it's time for basketball up there in Indiana, and this year's obviously been different.
The movie Hoosiers was about football?
It was not.
No, it was about high school basketball. So this is different for the folks in Indiana. Look, Hoosiers, we expect them to lose at some point. Their schedule has been soft, but they keep winning. I mean, is their best win over a mediocre Nebraska team, a mediocre Michigan team? Probably Michigan, who, by the way, has decided not to play a quarterback this year. They haven't beaten anybody. Their schedule is very soft, if you look at the strength of schedule. Ohio State's Ohio State.
Yep.
It's who they are, man. You know, they're going to win double-digit games. They're going to score a lot of points. Their defense is excellent. They don't give up many points. This is the one where you go, and I love the Ohio State story, and I mean the Indiana story. I'm rooting for Indiana Saturday. I'll just get that out of the way. but it feels like this is where the Indiana fairy tale ends.
Yeah, I think 49.5 states going to be pulling pretty hard for Indiana in this one, including half of Ohio. And, I'm with you. Again, there's a lot of quality on this team. Curtis Rourke, very solid quarterback. Got a couple of good caliber wide receivers on the outside that can give Ohio State some trouble. But I just think at the end of the day, for the most part, the talent's going to win out. And what Ohio State has across the board is better than what Indiana has. And the debate then becomes, okay, if Indiana loses by 17 or 20 points, how far do they drop?
They're a 13.5-point dog at home. Just saying. All right, here's Coach Signetti, Coach Sig at Indiana, talking about the ceiling of success in Bloomington.
Well, I mean, I think it's all out there. You know, I think any P4 school with the proper commitment is capable of being successful and being ultimately successful. Because, you know, really the difference between victory and defeat in most of these games is very slim, and it's all attainable. So we've put ourselves in a position right now to be talked about quite a bit. That's nice. It doesn't help us prepare, doesn't help us play any better. But, you know, we've got some great opportunities ahead of us, and this is a team that's capable, and the only limitations on this football team would be those we put on ourselves between our ears. But this is a group of guys that do not think that way. And we're going to go in to this next game confident, believing, and we're going to go out there and we're going to play well.
And that's the way they feel. And by the way, my bad, Tyler just reminded, I thought the game was in Bloomington. It's in Columbus.
Yeah, our guy, Orlando Bruce.
Okay.
Always on the up and up.
I appreciate that. I could have swore that game was in Bloomington.
Yeah, no, it's another big noon kickoff in Columbus.
Yeah, that's right. The Michigan game was in Bloomington.
Yes.
Yes, that's Michigan, Ohio State. I got it mixed up. I was watching it.
Yes.
Sitting not here, in a locale nowhere near here, doing the tour that I've been doing. I watched some of that game. So, yeah, the game is in Columbus, which makes it even more difficult.
Yeah, again, great story. I think it comes to the end of the line here, and then the debate is, okay, you lost to the best team that you played by the best team by a wide margin that you played. Are you still, which again, at this point in time, it's a top 10 to get in as an at-large. Are you good enough to stay in the top 10?
It's like anything. Don't start slow. Don't let Ohio State get up 2 scores on you. Don't let the crowd get crazy. You know, don't let Ohio State get momentum because then they can run you out of the building. Hang in there. Get through the first quarter.
Yep.
Get through the first quarter where it's no more than a 1-score game. Get settled, and then play the way you've been playing all year. It's a really good football team. You're not undefeated at this point, even though your strength of schedule is. You're not going to be undefeated at this point if you're not a good football team. They're a good football team. Yeah. But are they an exceptionally good football team? That we're going to find out on Saturday in Columbus.
Yeah, you can't help what your conference schedule is and how good or bad teams going to be, and they've beat most of these teams pretty easily or pretty handily for the most part. But, yeah, we're going to learn a lot about them tomorrow and see if they're worthy of sticking around this discussion or not.
And it's just simple because on paper, Ohio State's better. They got 7,000 5-stars. You got a bunch of transfer portal guys who have come in and been phenomenal for you. And they're veterans, and they're older guys. We'll see. And obviously, Indiana can't turn the ball over. You cannot give Ohio State anything. So that's a big one. I'm rooting for Indiana, but I think Ohio State wins by like 17.
Yeah, probably.
All right, football, the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. We'll continue on with Shane Beamer and see what's going on in the SEC tomorrow. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head on the game. It's that time. Playoff season. Get to our buddy Justin Hall, who decided, he'd rather celebrate his birthday with his family than do high school football playoff show.
Well, I'm a man of the people. I'm giving the people what they want here. I told Tyler, I just drove through the small town of Pomeria. Shout out to that stoplight. And that's it. That's the whole town. But yeah, just pedaling along on the road again, and thought I'd call. How are things going?
We're going great. I mean, we have a little we have a co-host coming, a guest host tonight. You might have heard of him, Shane Fiddler.
Yeah, from Our Airport Eagles. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. Our alma mater.
Guy. Yeah, our alma mater. They had an early exit from the playoffs. He's not in the studio right now, so I can say that was not totally unexpected. Mm-hmm. Played a lot of sophomores and freshmen this year. Oh, they'll be back. Building year, and transfer portal is kind of popular in high school sports now too. So maybe hit the portal.
What? I got a question. What's Airport's NIL situation?
I think that's illegal. They're not looking. I'll put it this way: they're not looking to me for their NIL money. I'll tell you that.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, they could be scratching the bottom of the barrel. Yeah, but playoffs, it's exciting. Mm-hmm. Playoff. You're talking playoff football in college, and I'm sitting over here thinking, well, the playoffs are in full force in the high school ranks right now, and it's getting spicy. The second round's usually where it starts to get really, really good.
All right, Justin Hall with us, typically the co-host of the Love Chevy High School Football Scoreboard Show with Elijah Campbell. Filling in will be Airport head coach Shane Fiddler tonight with Elijah, starting at 9 p.m. Special start time, 9 p.m. to go till 11 here on the Game in Columbia at 107.5. All right, Boiling Springs at Dutch Fork. What do you got?
Yeah, Boiling Springs took it to Dorman last week, which was not expected by that margin. They shut them out 32-0. And congratulations, your special prize for winning in round one, you get to go to Dutch Fork. Dutch Fork is a machine. They're well oiled. And that bracket sets up for them to play Spartanburg in a semifinal round in Division I of Class 5A, because we can't do Class 6A. Now we'll just split it and do two state champions in 5A. So they are set to play Spartanburg down the road
I smell some annoyance there from you.
Well, we are nothing if not illogical people, Terry. Why on earth would we not have just one state champion per classification? That would make too much sense.
But every state does multiple. Oh, no, they don't. Anyway, go ahead.
No, they don't. Yeah. Well, yeah. I'll say this: if this is what works for everyone, fine. We did this back in the 90s, I think, with 4A. Called it the Big 16 at one point, and whatever. Common sense has no place here, apparently. So anyway, Dutch Fork's going to play Spartanburg in a couple weeks. If they can get past Boiling Springs, which I think they will. We'll see if Dutch Fork can win another state championship, and their run to the playoffs or run to the state championship game starts tonight in round 2.
All right, Justin Hall with us, typically our co-host of the Love Chevy High School Football Scoreboard Show. Tonight, Justin will not be available, and we have Airport head coach Shane Fiddler hanging out with Elijah 9 to 11 here on the Game in Columbia. All right, we have Chapin and Irmo. Give me some knowledge.
Rematch of a region game a couple of weeks ago in the region of doom, the region of death, however you want to term it. Irmo gave Dutch Fork all they could handle and came up a bit short. Chapin played a wild game last week against Goose Creek. I got hit on X or Twitter more times last week regarding that game and officiating decisions and whether a player was in and or out of bounds when he made the catch than I've ever been before. I have no faith in Chapin winning this game tonight. I believe A.J. Brand and Donovan Murph, the Carolina fans might need to pay attention to this, not only for Donovan Murph, but for A.J. Brand. A.J. Brand has been very honest in interviews saying, I still hear from Coach Dow Loggins frequently. South Carolina's not done recruiting the young man that has committed to Virginia Tech because he hasn't signed yet with Virginia Tech. So that might be something to watch. But I think Irmo, offensive firepower, just too much. We saw it earlier this year. It's hard to beat the same team twice unless you've got that kind of talent at the quarterback and the wide receiver position.
All right, Justin Hall giving us the lowdown on what's going on playoff-wise in the region and the state today. Love Chevy High School Football Scoreboard Show tonight, 9 to 11 here on the Game in Columbia. All right, so we have White Knoll at Myrtle Beach.
White Knoll took care of business against Lugoff Elgin. Ended a really good year for Lugoff Elgin. White Knoll I feel like this is a team, the Timberwolves are starting to get it. And Coach Pelham talked with us about this last week after that win when he joined us on the Lumos guest line, actually. And I think they're catching their stride. They do have to take the long bus ride. I'm assuming they are on the interstate as well, like I am, except they're going in the opposite direction. So they're heading down to the coast. That's a tough road trip to take, knowing you got to play tonight. That's the only reason why I'm tempted to take Myrtle Beach here. Listen, honestly, Myrtle Beach is out of the footprint. Don't know much about them, but I know enough about White Knoll to tell you that Coach Nicholas Pelham is going to have those boys ready to play, and they have been going through the meat grinder this year, trying to get things right and get back to a state championship game. And if they get past Myrtle Beach tonight, I'm seeing a rematch with Irmo setting up in that semifinal game.
All right, another one, Justin. We've got Gilbert at Bishop England.
Gilbert got past a pesky Lower Richland team last week in round one over in Gilbert, America. Gilbert's that team that if everything's clicking offensively and defensively, they're a really tough team. It's their first foray into the 4A playoffs. You're welcome. And I think what we're going to see from Gilbert tonight as they go on the road to Bishop England, and we like to enunciate this because they are the battling bishops of Bishop England. It's going to be a tough matchup for them. It's going to be a physical football game. Gilbert's going to have to respond because they're going to get punched in the face tonight, probably only figuratively. And again, it's another one of those, I'm looking at the bracket. It's all about how the bracket lays out for these teams. I like their chances in a rematch with North Augusta down the road, if that's what it comes to. So a good matchup down there. Two good matchups in the Low Country there featuring Midlands teams.
Loomis High School football preview with Justin Hall here on the Game in Columbia, Florence, and Myrtle Beach. All right. Orangeburg, Wilkinson at Keenan. Hit me.
William Jefferson Keenan High School is one of the better stories that no one's talked about, including me, on the show. They had a coaching change in July. No one had any idea what this team would be. Easy for kids who some of them can't even drive by themselves yet just to check out, and they haven't. And they finished well in their region. They had a week or two off before the playoffs, played really well last week, got a good win in round one. They play OW again. They played in the regular season earlier this season. And this is a good opportunity for Keenan to look up and find themselves in the quarterfinals and go, oh, my gosh, how did we get here? Practicing on Thanksgiving weekend. So a good story out of the Midlands is W.J. Keenan, and OW, Orangeburg Wilkinson, has a really good football team. They are just a hard-nosed football team. And so it should be a good defensive battle between Keenan and the Bruins of OW tonight.
All right, so you taking South Carolina and giving Wofford was a 50?
Run that by me one more time.
All right,
because
so
you were breaking up.
What are you going to go, Carolina and give Wofford the points, or are you going to take Wofford and the points?
You know what? I'll take Carolina, and Carolina should cover. I'm actually going to the game tomorrow. It's my first game inside Williams-Brice that I haven't been covering the team since the Chris Smelly days. If that tells you anything.
Wow.
So it's been a while. There's a name for you. I'll drop that one. He got rescued in the Gulf of Mexico earlier this year. So it should be a fun one. My plan is that we should, it's a birthday gift. So the wife is coming too, Clemson fan, the daughter who is still impressionable
Very
at
nice.
8 months old will be there as well. So my hope is that we can leave by halftime after the salute to the troops and not have to worry about anything. So
Happy birthday, my man. We appreciate you. Thank you, Justin. Loomis High School football preview right here on the Halftime Show on the Game. Football Friday, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, getting you ready for South Carolina Wofford Saturday, 11 a.m. Gamecocks game day from the party lot at Sound and Images right across from Williams-Brice, sponsored by LexMed Ortho. We'll be there till right about 1, then the SEC report. 1 o'clock, Chris Miller and the folks from the Gamecock Sports Network will take over with the network pregame up until 4. Then it's kickoff. South Carolina Wofford from Williams-Brice, and you can hear it right here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia and 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. All right, today, by the way, we are our final tailgate show from Columbia Craft Fall Festival at Columbia Craft. Jay and Elijah will be there 3 to 6 with the halftime show for our final tailgate Friday of the regular season. Okay. Firehouse Sub text the hour, 803-404-6100. What do you got?
Gamecock Don weighs in and says, don't think it will happen, but if Ohio State loses, are they out?
No.
That Penn State win's going to prop them up.
That's what props them up. That's the one they'll hang their hat on, like Notre Dame's hanging their hat on the Texas A&M win.
And I agree with you. I think Ohio State should win this game. Can I cast a little bit of doubt in your mind, though?
Yeah, give it a whirl.
Earlier on this week, their starting center transfer from Alabama, Seth McLaughlin, tore his Achilles, is out for the rest of the season.
Good, solid player. Yep.
They also lost a starting left tackle against Oregon a couple weeks back. They're reshuffling the offensive line.
Well, their very good guard is now playing tackle.
Yeah, they're having to move guys around, reshuffling the offensive line. If anybody knows how important cohesion on offensive line is, it's anybody here in South Carolina because we've dealt with it for the past couple of years. Indiana has the best pass rush in all of the Big Ten. The Trench is going to win this game. And Indiana might have the advantage there.
I mean, my thought is that to neutralize a pass rush, besides screens and stuff like that, and running the football.
Yeah.
And Ohio State has two very good running backs. But to your point, you're shuffling your offensive line. Are you going to be able to run the ball against Indiana? To me, that's the key of the whole football game. If Ohio State can run the ball against Indiana with a makeshift offensive line, that neutralizes the Indiana pass rush, which is one of the best in the country, by the way.
Yep. So, again, I think Ohio State's got the advantage here, but that's something to keep your eye on for this game for sure.
Oh, I'm rooting for Indiana like nobody's business.
I think again, most of the country is.
You're right, 49 and a half states. I don't disagree with that at all. All right, and our Firehouse Sub text the hour was about Ohio State falling out. If Ohio State loses, the Penn State victory continues to keep them in the playoff conversation.
It does, and I don't know. It's still kind of hard to figure out how exactly the committee views losses, because I do think there's something to say about losing on the road to the number one team in the country in a crazy, bizarre situation where the clock just ended up running out. And
you brain cramped, your quarterback brain cramped.
Exactly. And if there was 1 second on the clock and they could have kicked a field goal, Ohio State probably wins that game. We're having a completely different discussion here, and we're talking about Oregon's quality of schedule and all that kind of stuff. But I think unless they just get skull drugged by 50, which I don't think is going to happen.
No.
I think they would drop, obviously, probably to, I don't know, 7, 8, somewhere around there. But
I think they don't get the bye.
They wouldn't. You're going on the road in the first round, which again, when you play high level competition, and if Indiana wins, then we would respect them as a high level team, and they'd probably move up to 2 or 3 themselves. You got to win most of those games, and at that point, they'd be 1-3 against top 5 opponents, or 1-2 against top 5 opponents.
And Ryan Day, let's get to Ryan Day in here while we're yapping about this, Tyler. Ryan Day this week talking about this Indiana game. Ryan Day, win or you're out.
It's been like that, really since after the Oregon game. Yeah. That hasn't changed. You lose any one of those games, then you're out. So that's not changed. We've always monitor, after the game's over, Saturday night, Sunday morning, what's going on across the conference. We saw, Indiana is becoming a big game. It's now a top 5 matchup. So, our guys are fired up for this one and know that this is a must win for us. We got to go win this game to go play in Indianapolis. And I know the team, the coaches, everybody in this building, the fans know what kind of a game this is, and we got to bring it on Saturday.
It's kind of weird because, the Big Ten wants as many teams in the playoff, obviously, as possible.
Sure.
So if you're the Big Ten, you want Indiana to win a close game.
Yeah, because that would almost guarantee you 4 teams likely getting in.
Yeah, because if Indiana gets beat, unless they lose by multiple scores, with their weak strength of schedule, they might fall out.
Because, again, you only have to fall to 11th with the way things are right now to be out.
So there's not a lot of belief in Indiana, like there wasn't not a lot of belief in BYU. And what hurt BYU was losing in general, but losing to a below 500 Kansas team. No matter how good on paper we think Kansas is, how much they've underachieved, how many one-score games they've lost, losing to, what was it, 3-6 at the time, Kansas
3-6,
team?
Yep.
That tumbles you. But a loss would have hurt BYU, period.
Yeah.
But a loss to a team like that. So losing to Ohio State won't hurt Indiana as much as BYU's loss, but
Yeah.
they
have
can I ask you a question?
They have nothing to hang their hat on.
Right. They nothing. BYU, I mean, they got to win over SMU.
Exactly.
At SMU.
Exactly.
So I think BYU gets more belief than Indiana gets belief.
Probably. I
That
think
makes
that's
sense?
fair.
It's going to be very interesting what happens if Indiana does lose this game by multiple scores.
That's why we play the games.
Yep. What's Trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions here on the Halftime Show. With Terry Ford and Tyler Head, we are going another hour here on the game. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry, Gamecock Traditions. Obviously, we got a lot of football to get to on a Football Friday. Shane Beamer on Carolina Calls last night. One thing that's kind of happened is the tight end situation at South Carolina. Brady Hunt's hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into what Shane Beamer says about what's going on in the tight end room at Carolina.
In regards to last Saturday, you're right. There was at one point we were down our top 3 tight ends. Josh was out, Brady was out, and Mike Smith was out all at one point. And that's obviously not ideal to be down your top 3 tight ends when you're a tight end heavy offense. In regards to this week, we're fortunate that room has some depth that before Brady Hunt and Mike Smith got here this year, if you go back to 2023, Connor Cox and Nick Elksness were playing for us as well, at least traveling and involved with special teams, and they're still in our program, so they're available. They're older guys. Mo Brown's a tight end that does a great job for us on special teams. So we've got 6 tight ends right there that are all on scholarship right now as well, and then they all can come back next year if they chose to, except for Josh. But that's a priority certainly in recruiting. We're actively recruiting one now, and that's a position that we always want to be able to utilize in our offense, just because of not just the offensive value that they bring, but the special teams value. Like that's where we're really going to miss Brady, because Brady was the guy that a lot of the stuff on field goal, he handled a lot of that for us. The calls on our punt team, he was heavily involved with that. When meeting with Joe D this week, you don't realize how much you miss somebody until they're not part of the plan, and that's the situation with Brady offensively and special teams wise. So we'll be okay for Saturday going forward, but absolutely that's a position that we want to target in recruiting, but we also like the guys that can potentially come back next year too.
So, obviously it depends on health. There's no Brady Hunt till December, but, the health of Josh Simon and Michael Smith, how healthy are they in context to 100%? Some of these other guys that Shane just talked about, do you give them some more run?
Yeah.
Because, again, the important game is Clemson.
It is, and this is one of those situations where likely these guys probably aren't going to play, a majority of the snaps tomorrow anyway, if the game goes the way you hope it's going to go. So I think you could probably get by with an Elksnix, a Connor Cox. We've seen Mo Brown get a lot of run this year, or play a lot of special teams and stuff like that. So I think you have an opportunity to see some of these guys get a little bit more of an opportunity tomorrow, just because you don't want to risk further injuring a Josh Simon or a Michael Smith or somebody like that if you don't have to.
Yeah, that's the way I feel about it. You want to try to get through this thing with those folks. In a perfect world, not playing at all or playing very little.
Exactly. Like if there was any game on the schedule this year, we said, you know what, we're down our main couple of tight ends here. Can we get by with 3 and 4 or 4 and 5? Yeah, I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, so that's a little thing about the tight end position right now from Shane Beamer last night on Carolina Calls. All right, we haven't talked about it yet, but it was trending last night. South Carolina taking on Mercer at CLA. Finally pulled away a bit with a 12-point victory. And now, did I think South Carolina would win by more? I did, just because, look, Mercer, what they don't do well is they aren't very good defensively inside the three-point line. They give up a ton of twos. And teams are very efficient offensively scoring the basketball inside on Mercer. They're not a very big team. Basically, what they do well is they play very fast. They shoot a ton of threes.
They shot a lot last night.
We said this, that for them to stay in the game, they're going to have to hit their threes. To their credit, they did. They hit 46% from three. Typically, they're a 33% shooting team from three. Give Mercer their props. They hit their threes. They shot 45% from the floor, which is typically more than they do in a game as well. So, they did their work. 16 assists on 26 made baskets. South Carolina shot it even better at, 49%, 44% from three on 27 threes, still struggling from the free throw line. Mm-hmm. This game should have been more of a blowout because, again, you can't shoot 62% from the line. Colin Murray-Boyle's got it going again, 16-9. I thought he was going to score 116 against this team.
And this was a game, I talked about this yesterday, it was important for him to get his confidence back, because he had a rough go of it against Indiana this past weekend, and found a way to go out there and again nearly get a double-double. But I probably feel pretty good coming away from that one.
Yes, is the answer. Yes. It's one of those things where, look, they're still trying to move themselves around and get themselves together.
Sure.
And that's the thing, is they are a work in progress. Is that fair?
I think so.
At the end of the day, I think it's going to be fine before it's over with. It's been underwhelming so far. Yeah. Do I think that Lamont will get this thing on the right track? They'll start playing better. Like defensively last night, that was an issue.
Yeah, especially on the perimeter, because again, Mercer shot the lights out.
Yeah, they've got to get better defensively. Offensively, look, Thomas is not what you had last year in Talon Cooper at the point. He's a different type of point guard.
His best game last night, too.
He did. He had 19 last night.
Yep.
Shot the ball really well, but again, only one assist.
Yep.
He's more of a point guard that's a combo guard. Talon Cooper was a pure point guard, quarterback of the offense.
Yeah.
That's who Cooper was. Pass first guy.
Thomas kind of a shoot first type of guard. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just different than what you had a year ago. And this team just comes out a little bit clunky, really kind of start of halves, early turnovers, just not really looking like as clean and efficient as they need to be, which, again, you can get away with that against a team like Mercer because talent-wise, you're just better than them. But that's something, you certainly need to clean up. I mean, go back to the Indiana game last weekend where they just kind of jumped on them. Indiana jumped on Carolina pretty quickly, and I know Carolina ended up making it interesting a little bit later on, but you can't dig yourself into holes early in these games.
No, and, again, playing an opponent like Mercer, and I'm not saying Carolina should have beat them by 50, but I thought that was a get-right game. Get some hoops in the paint where Mercer struggles defensively. I thought maybe this is a game Nick Pringle could get rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Pringle only went 1 for 3 from the floor, did have 7 boards, did go to the line 6 times, hit 4-6 from the line. But I thought he would have a better game offensively against, I think it was 6'7", 6'8", 6'6". Not a big team, Mercer. So I did think that was going to be more of a thing where Pringle could really get going. Colin Murray was, again, he went 16-9, so that was a nice bounce back, 6-7 from the floor. Hit both his threes, by the way. First 2 in his career. He could start stretching out his offensive game to the three-point line, makes him even more dangerous. Mm-hmm. And guess what? Even more NBA friendly. Just saying. Again, Jameer Thomas had his best game, rolling 19 points, 4 or 5 from 3, got to the line 8 times. That was nice to see. Thomas is going to play defense. He's going to give you some massive effort and energy on D. And if he can get it going on offense, even better. Jacoby Wright led the team with 5 assists. Now, here's the thing. 13 assists on 27 made buckets. You'd like for that to be higher.
Sure.
But it's a work in progress. You're 2-2. I think, again, once Lamont figures out what he's got and how he's got to play, on really, especially on the offensive end of the court, I think they're going to be okay, and things will get back in the right direction. Last night, though, a W, and wins matter, 84-72 over Mercer.
Yep.
All right, what's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Let's get to some Lamont Paris real quick, Tyler. Let's get cut 18. Again, this team is a work in progress. Here's Lamont Paris on his frustrations right now after 5 games.
Yeah, I just think, honestly, there were a couple of times where we were in a huddle and we were going to do something specifically, and then when we come out of the huddle, we don't do it, or there were other times where a coverage, I guess where last year's biggest strength of last year's team, not to compare and contrast necessarily, but they were really good earlier in the season at some of those things. And you can't force your group to grow in those. To me personally, some of those are, you could challenge me to improve my jump shot or to improve my passing. That might take more time. Some of these things, I think, with a super high level of concentration
are more reproducible, and it's just taking us a little longer to consistently be able to do some of those things. And because of it, we end up giving up more points than what I think we should, based on our physical attributes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just taking time. That's all. It just takes some time. And that's the way it is. It's not going as fast as Lamont wants it, obviously. But it just takes some time. And you're going to have to get this thing to gel. I mean, again, Jamari Thomas is a different type of guard than Talon Cooper. Jacoby Wright, back in the starting lineup, really came off the bench last year. Miles Studi was hurt on and off last season. Nick Pringle's new. Colin Murray-Boyles is falling into a new role as the go-to guy on the offense. It's just different. That's all. It's just different. And they have to get this thing together. And they will, I believe, in time. But it's just the pieces all have to start to fit. Last year it fit right away, right? These cats were on it from the get-go. And so every year is different, every team's different. And this one's going to take a little bit longer, I think. But I believe Lamont Paris is a good head coach. And I think he'll figure this out, and these guys will start winning games. Are they going to be as good as they were last year? If you ask me, probably not. But can they get in the NCAA tournament? Can they get on the bubble to put themselves in position to possibly get in the tournament? Sure they can. But do they have to play better? Absolutely. Both ends of the court have to get better. Last night, offense, thumbs up. Defense, that was a little bit of a step back last night.
Yeah, and now you're heading to Fort Myers. We know they're playing Xavier, and then they get the winner of, or they get to face either Michigan or Virginia Tech, I believe, in the second game out there on Tuesday. So you're going to get a step up in competition, much like the Indiana game was, and going to be a good kind of litmus test on where this team's at.
So when the press conference for old Coach Miller at Xavier, can somebody please go, Coach, did you like Hall's Chop House in Columbia, South Carolina? What was your favorite thing on the menu? Just for fun?
Yeah. Why not?
What the heck? All right, what's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. All right, 2:45, we do our little, we pick some winners with our buddy Corey Parson. We're going to jump in with Corey Parson here at 2:45. Next, though, known this guy a long time, and for some reason I still talk to him. I don't know why. Scott Hamilton, new columnist for the Post and Courier, replacing Gene Sapikoff, who retired. We'll have Scott Hamilton on here next. Talk some sports with us, some Caroline and other things as well. That is coming up. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, what's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions, right here on The Game. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. What's trending at 2 is Scott Hamilton from the Post and Courier. Probably never been called that before, have you?
I've been called a lot of things.
I know, by me.
Yeah, by you. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
How you doing, my man?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing all right. Congrats on the gig at the Post and Courier. Happy for you. Very happy for you.
You know, this is literally, and I'm going to go ahead and take up my whole segment here, just telling you a few things. This is literally the job I wanted when I got into media 25 years ago. I met a man by the name of Ken Berger, the only sports writer in the South Carolina Journalism Hall of Fame. And I was captivated by that man. First person I called when my son was born. And to now have a job that he had, and of course the great Gene Sapikoff, who's still with us, thank you, Lord. I'm humbled beyond belief, Terry. I'm terribly happy.
And I'm happy for you, pal. Because, we will make fun of you a lot, but sincerely, I'm very happy for you at the Post and Courier, an iconic newspaper in this region.
Don't sell yourself short, Judge. You're a tremendous slouch.
Hey, you have a cool column that I was looking at that you had sent me the link to, the bandwagon, jumping on and jumping off the bandwagon.
You like that?
So you're on the Lennar Sellers bandwagon, my man.
I am. First of all, thank you for reading. You and my mother. That makes 2. It's called the Bandwagoning Report. It's every Wednesday. postandcourier.com. There, I did my company duty pitching that. Yeah, man, I'm buying Sellers stock. He grew up, and I wrote it in the column. He grew up somewhere on that plain between Columbia and Tuscaloosa. That's when we first started really seeing what he was capable of, and then right after that, we saw, Oklahoma, A&M, all that. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal, the growth that he's exhibited. Terry, I mean, look at the Old Dominion game. Did you expect him to play the way he's playing right now after Old Dominion, or even Kentucky, a game they won? Did you expect him to look this good?
Well, when we saw that early season with the Old Dominion game, that opener, especially remember, Scott, the little bit that you saw of him last year, he was making like big plays, throwing it, running it, and he looked like, oh my gosh, can't wait to see this guy start. And then the Old Dominion game was very underwhelming, and a lot of folks are like, wow, you mean he's going to have to like grow and develop like most redshirt freshmen who are starting in their first year? Oh my God. And now you see where he's at.
It's unbelievable. And look, I'm going to say this as well. As great as he's playing and as much credit as he's getting, how much of it can we put on to Rocket Sanders, having him in the back? I mean, I'm getting some real KJ Jefferson Rocket vibes from Arkansas a couple of years ago, what we're seeing. I'm really liking having a healthy Rocket Sanders back there. But here's something else, Terry. Dow Loggins. I mean, I was critical of him just a few weeks ago. I mean, the guy was, let's face it, he was terrible in the NFL. He had no coordinator experience in college. And I felt like he was learning on the job, but it seems like he figured things out about the same time that Lenore Sellers figured things out. And everything's just rolling right now.
I'll tell you, we're talking to Scott Hamilton from the Post and Courier here on the halftime show on the game in Columbia, Florence, and Myrtle Beach. Coming out of that bye, Scott, it feels like Dow Loggins has hit the sweet spot with this offense, with what Sellers can do, what he's good at, the play calling. It seems like that shovel pass against Missouri last Saturday that brought the game-winning score. I mean, that was a hell of a play call, man, at that point.
I'm telling you, he has figured this out, how to make this offense hum. And I don't know where the disconnect was earlier in the year. I mean, there are a lot of different ways to break this down, Terry. First of all, having a world-class sprinter out there who's actually getting some targets, that's opening up everything. Regardless of if they actually throw it to him or not more than 2 or 3 times a game, as long as they get enough targets to keep the defense honest, that's going to open up the running game. And you've got Sellers back there feeling more comfortable about it when it opens up. It's just, I don't know. I need to sit down with somebody and break down about 4 games worth of film and say, what are they doing specifically different now that's working that wasn't working before? Because the plays are the same, brother. The plays are the same, but they're just pulling all the right levers.
Scott Hamilton with us from the Post and Courier here on the halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head on the game. All right, let's get to your jumping off before we move on. You're jumping off Baton Rouge. Please, go for it.
My family. Brian Kelly, the clown show. Did you like the line in there when I said his his Southern accent was as phony as instant grits.
Yes. Yes.
And then the video with the recruit where they were doing the dance. I think I said it looked like a stripper having a seizure.
Yes.
Dancer having a seizure.
Yes.
That's
Very
Brian
good,
Kelly.
my man. Very good.
Brian, well, thank you. This is what I do. They pay me a little bit to do that. No, it's crazy, man. I mean, Brian Kelly, first of all, he's phony as all get out. You remember the table slam? Yeah, let me see if I can do it. Listen, I got a table here. I'm angry. Hulk smash. That's Brian Kelly, man. And that cake don't bake down there. Those people have little patience. And he presumably left Notre Dame because he thought there would be no pathway for Notre Dame to make the playoff. And he's going to LSU and he's going to the SEC. And, you know, the last three head coaches of LSU have all won a national title. And we saw that 2019 team overcome its head coach to win a national title. And he figured, well, Lord, I'm better than Coach O. Surely to goodness, I'll win multiple titles. And he's fallen flat on his face because culturally it's a terrible fit. Coaching-wise, he can't figure out who he is because, Terry, the defense was the problem last year. Now it's like offensively they can't decide if they want to be a passing team, a running team. Jaden Daniels, he covered up so many holes with this team last year. I think he's just been exposed as a marginal head coach. And here's the great irony of it all. This 12-team playoff that has been constructed, which I love dearly, and I'd love to get your opinion on it as well. It is actually crafted for Notre Dame to have an easy pathway into the party. They don't get a home game, or a bye rather, but they can get a home game. They can get in the playoff every year by basically playing a minimalist schedule. That's the irony of this. If he'd have stayed put, he would have had a better chance of making the playoff. But instead, he bet on himself. He bet that he could fool the masses, pulling off a politician act like his dad. His dad was an alderman in Boston, and it's fallen flat. And I wouldn't put it past them to buy him out. Not this year, but next year, if he doesn't get to the playoff, more than that, he might need to win the SEC just to make those nut jobs happy. I don't think he'll be around. Him and Lincoln Riley are going to be sitting on the beach somewhere together with Ed Orgeron.
all laughing about the buyout. Hey, Scott Hamilton, Post and Courier. Last thing for you, last couple minutes, my man. You talk about the college football playoff. I, too, love it. And here's an example why. So many more fan bases are juiced and energized right now. I mean, like South Carolina has that little bit of shot to get in. You have a long shot to get in, but you have a shot. 14 playoff. Nobody in Columbia, South Carolina is talking about playoffs. This includes a lot more cities and a lot more fan bases who look at all this and say, well, if this happens and my team handles their business, we can make the playoff too. It's just good for college football.
I think it's fantastic. And to your point, you know, the entirety of the college football playoff, there's always been 8 teams each year who had a shot. 6 teams who were used to doing it, usually 2 outliers. But even of those 6 teams, that we were used to making a playoff every year, there were only 2 or 3 we would say would legitimately had a shot to win the national championship. It was the Alabama-Clemson show for a long time, the Alabama-Georgia show for a long time. I'm looking right now, I see, and this is not hyperbole, I see 20 teams that could legitimately win the national championship, and we are in the penultimate weekend of the college football regular season. It's fantastic, and I'm going to credit our friend Stuart Mandel at The Athletic with this. There are literally 3 times as many games that matter this week and potentially more next week with regards to the playoffs than there was for the past 2 years combined. This is a win.
Oh, absolutely. Scott Hamilton, Post and Courier. We'll be bugging him every week. We appreciate you, my man.
Every week?
Every week. For the rest of your life, whether you're still at the Post and Courier or not. You could be, hey, we're talking to Scott Hamilton, who's flipping burgers at Five Guys. Scott, your thoughts on the college football playoff. Every week for the rest of your life.
Don't be mean. I'll be at Five Guys, all right.
Me and you both.
Hey, would that be 107 Five Guys? 107.5 guys?
Wow, Scott, we're losing you. The internet connection is gone. Wow, what a shame. Scott Hamilton, Post and Courier. Get back in here. Greatest day in the history of the world is November 22nd. Right, Tyler? Next, here on The Game. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head here on the game. Again, here just a little bit, 3 to 6. Jay and Elijah at Columbia Craft on Green Street in the Vista, our final Friday tailgate show of the season. It's also fall festival time at Columbia Craft, so you might want to stop in for that. And Columbia Craft sponsoring Rivalry Week, or like Tyler wants to call it, Hate Week, starting on Monday.
I know hate is not as PR friendly, so I get why we're calling it Rivalry Week, but we know what's up.
Yeah, we know what's up. We'll be at we'll sponsored by Columbia Craft. We'll be at Cato's Power Equipment 3 to 6 on Tuesday, and the Nest in the Vista noon to 3 on Wednesday. And stop in and see us and see all the great things that are going on at Cato's Power Equipment and the Nest, and register to win tickets for this or that, let's see, a week from tomorrow.
Yeah.
The game at Clemson.
Well,
Carolina Clemson in the upstate.
They're going to come in and pay us no mind and just ask where the tickets are.
Exactly. They won't care. They're just like, can I register for the tickets, whoever you goofs are? So that, and we'll also have tickets. Not only are you registering to win tickets for the Carolina Clemson football game, but Carolina Clemson baseball, Carolina Clemson men's basketball. That's all next week. So pop in to see us at Cato's Power Equipment and the Nest in the Vista and qualify. Register for the tickets. We'll be doing that drawing, I believe, on Wednesday afternoon. So all that's happening. All right, greatest day in the history of the world. Condensed version. We got to get to football because it's a football Friday. On this day in 1945, Jim Benton of the Cleveland Rams was the first NFL player to have more than 300 receiving yards in a game. They actually threw the ball in 1945 to Jim Benton repeatedly.
If you would have asked me what year the first 300-yard receiving performance was in the NFL, wouldn't have guessed 45.
10 catches, 303 yards for Jim Benton.
Wait, hold on. 10, averaging 30 yards a catch?
30 yards.
That's explosive plays right there.
Yes. 30 yards a catch. All right, so...
How many fantasy points would that be?
Yeah, man. Depends what kind of league you're in, I guess.
Seeing a PPR?
All right, so you're saying, well, this Benton guy has a big game. Yeah, what kind of NFL career did this guy have? He was on the 1940s All-Decade team. Played his college career at Arkansas with Jerry Jones. I just made that up. He did play at Arkansas.
Probably not far off.
Probably not. He was selected to several All-American teams. Again, really good wide receiver with the Cleveland Rams. Played 9 years, or 8 years for the Rams, a year for the Chicago Bears. Dropped out of pro football to coach high school football in Fordyce, Arkansas, but returned to the Rams in 1942. He left pro football to be a high school football coach and then came back to the NFL.
What have we been saying? You need to quit playing those games and get yourself a real job.
Mm-hmm. Get out there and coach them youngins.
He's probably the science teacher at the high school, too, because that probably paid him more.
Oh, yeah. By the way, can you start maybe mopping the floors on your way out? We'll throw you an extra $5.
Oh, you're a professional football player? That's cute.
Here's the stat, though, for Benton. When he retired in 1947, he was the second leading receiver in pro football history with 288 catches.
Okay.
For 4,800 yards and 45 touchdowns. Benton and the great Don Hudson were the only two receivers to lead the league in receiving multiple times before 1950.
Wow.
So this guy could ball.
Yeah.
Good player, and also a high school football coach. How about that guy?
Well, were the high school teams any good? I guess is the better question.
Man, he went right back to football after 1 year of high school student. He's like, I'm going back to football, man. I don't want to do this mess.
This is too hard. I need to go back to the NFL.
Can't deal with this. And I'll give you one more old school. 1950, the Fort Wayne Pistons edged the Minneapolis Lakers. 19-18, lowest scoring game in NBA history.
Whatever happened to those teams?
Fort Wayne and Minneapolis. I still think it's funny that when Minneapolis moved to L.A., there's a lot of lakes in Los Angeles. Let's go with this Laker thing.
I do think I didn't know that they were the Fort Wayne Pistons before they came to the Detroit Pistons, because Pistons clearly is a direct reference to the car industry in Detroit. I don't know what correlation it has to Fort Wayne. Well, I get, no, because Indianapolis would make more sense because of Indy, obviously.
Right.
But, yeah, I just always assumed the Pistons were direct reference to Detroit.
I don't know. The piston was invented in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Was it?
No, I just made that up.
Maybe it was. I don't know.
This is one of those rabbit holes that would take us hours. You know that, right?
Well, I'm going to look it up right now while we're doing this.
We talked about this before. On this day in 1914, Samaje Perine of the Oklahoma Sooners sets the single game.
1914?
Did I say 2014? I'm losing my mind. I'm losing my mind today. 2014, Samaje Perine of the Oklahoma Sooners runs for 427 yards in a Sooner 44-7 win over Kansas. Of course, Melvin Gordon a week earlier had broken the record with 408 yards.
I'll never forget, because it was that same day Melvin Gordon had a big game for Wisconsin, and the reporter on the field interviewed him. A great game. By the way, they broke your record today. He's like, who broke it? Samaje Perine. And he was kind of like, oh, okay.
That was that kind of record to go in back-to-back weeks.
That's
insane. All right, it's a Football Friday here on the game. Terry Ford, Tyler here. Shane Beamer speaking to the media yesterday. Let's snag a little something else here from Shane. Beamer was talking with Todd Ellis about the connection Shane has with the athletic department at South Carolina. This was interesting. Here's Shane Beamer.
Glad you brought that up. Excited to be able to make a small contribution to the band being able to go up to New York City and be a part of that parade next Thursday. That's one of the great things that as a holiday tradition, that Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade. So for our band to be able to participate in it, I'm really excited for them. It'll be great exposure for South Carolina as well. And I'm so thankful for the band and what they do for us. I know how hard they work. I talked about it in the press conference on Tuesday. Every August, 2 or 3 weeks before the first game, I go and speak to the band, and they're here in early August going through training camp or whatever you want to call it, preseason practices just like we are to get ready for Saturdays in Williams-Brice. So got great respect for them. Grateful for the environment that they create in Williams-Brice Stadium for us. So, yeah, about a month ago, Tuesday night in the office, I was in there late, and Darius Rucker texted me, and Darius just proposed this to be able to help the band out and wanted to get my thoughts on it. And I told him that I was all for it for the same reasons that he was. So that's, someone in Darius that cares a lot about this university and this state, and myself as well. So I'm glad it worked out. And you're right, all the sports do. I'm surrounded by some awesome coaches at this university, Hall of Fame coaches, national championship coaches, and our athletic director, my boss, and just being able to pick their brain and learn from them, selfishly, I'm so grateful for. But love being able to support one another, whether it be attending their events, which I try and do. It's tough in the fall, but outside of fall when I'm able to get to things. But then being able to help with recruiting, whether, Dawn or the basketball team asks me to meet with the recruit, or Dawn has been fantastic. I mean, I looked up, we were in the Tommy Suggs Tunnel Saturday night for 2001, and I always like looking around, just kind of taking it all in and maintaining the gratitude I have to be the head football coach here. And I turned around and I looked up in the recruits section behind us where all of our recruits sit, and there's Don Staley in the front row with all of our recruits, waving the towel and all that as well. And whether it be softball, golf, soccer, I'd welcome the opportunity to visit with their recruits, baseball, softball, you name it. And it's quite the family environment we have here at Carolina.
I mean, that's the thing. And a couple of years ago, we did a show from Ray Tanner's suite to all of us all day long, all the shows. And we're talking to all the different coaches. And we're talking about tennis coaches and track coaches and, people, male coaches, female coaches. And the one thing they all talked about was the synergy that they have. And they said one of the great things is looking up and seeing a Shane Beamer at your game, or a Dawn Staley at your game, or, now Lamont Paris is at your game.
Yeah.
And whenever you see these coaches coming out to each other's games, you see the support and feel the support, especially look, Shane Beamer is coaching the highest revenue generating sport on campus, the most popular sport on campus. He didn't have to come to your tennis matches.
No.
But he does.
Yeah, he cares. He wants to be here. He embraces the community of the city, and you certainly see that, show through with him. That's genuine.
And that stuff is contagious. And I'm not saying he's the only coach that does it. I'm just saying the example. He's the highest profile coach on campus except for Dawn Staley, because Dawn obviously is Dawn.
Sure.
But you'll see Dawn show up at other people's games.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think that kind of stuff with Dawn Staley doing it and Shane Beamer doing it makes it contagious for other coaches to go out and support each other. And no matter what sport it is at Carolina.
It does, and it just kind of exemplifies a culture within what we have here at Carolina, which is really neat. By the way, quickly here, the Fort Wayne Pistons were named for owner Fred Zollner, who owned a piston manufacturing company in Fort Wayne. They were originally known as the Fort Wayne Zollner Pistons, and then they moved to Detroit and said, that name actually sounds pretty good. We'll stick with it.
The Zollner Pistons in the beginning, and then just Pistons. So the guy owned this is the funniest thing, ready? You think about the name of a franchise. Now we joke about Paul Brown said, you know what? I'm so wonderful, I'm naming the team after me because I'm the owner. Browns.
Sure, why not?
But Zollner goes, I own a piston shop.
Why not?
Yeah, let's go with Pistons. What if this guy's like he's making he has a sandwich shop, or I don't know. Oh, ready? He's a guy. Ready? He's a podiatrist.
Fort Wayne Heroes for sandwiches.
It's just he owned a piston shop. Let's name the team after my business. All right. Halftime show. We will be seeing we'll be talking to our buddy Corey Parson, getting some wagering in next here on the game. All right, time to do a little game picking here on the halftime show with Terry Ford, Tyler Head, Corey Parson going to jump in here with us. All right, so Tyler, you and Corey are over 500. I am pathetically under 500 in our little get-together here. So basically, listen to Corey, listen to Tyler, and whatever I say, do the opposite.
I think I just get lucky. I'd say listen to Corey probably is the
Corey's a professional
better idea here.
He's the pro. You ready to roll, Corey?
Yeah, right. Yeah, let's get to see what we got. I tell you what, though, in the NFL, this week you really get to see that the NFL is really this year a league of haves and have-nots. There are currently 9 teams with 3 or less wins this season.
And think about one of them last night. The one last night with 3 wins, 2 of their 3 wins are over the 2 best teams in the AFC North at home.
How about that?
Makes perfect sense, right? All right, Corey, we'll start with you, my man. Cowboys, Commanders, Washington giving Dallas 10.5 in D.C.
Yeah, tough one right here if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan. This has been a horrible season, and it's just going to continue to get worse. And I think the problem that Dallas has is, you know, when you've been 12-win teams each of the last 3 years, you've beat up on your division rivals badly. And the Commanders have been on the back end a lot of those whoopings, and I think they returned the favor this week. I'll let it 10 with the Commanders. I think Dallas is done.
Oh, Commanders in the 10.5. All right, Tyler Head, You get Green Bay at home giving 3 to the 49ers.
Ooh, 49ers still very talented. Got Christian McCaffrey back. It's just not been the season they wanted, though. Man, that NFC North is one of the tougher divisions in all of football. You said that game's in Lambeau?
Yep.
Yeah, give me Green Bay to cover.
All righty. I get my Ravens giving 3 to the Chargers in L.A. Ravens against the Steelers. They'll bounce back and win a slobber knocker over the Chargers. Game's in. It's a Ravens home game in L.A. because everybody has a home game against the Chargers in L.A.
Very true.
All right, Corey, we go to college. Ohio State giving 11 to Indiana at home in Columbus. What do you got, my friend?
Yeah, this is the big one going down tomorrow in college football. Didn't really think that we would be looking at Indiana and Ohio State as a major game when we started this season. I'm going to take the points with the Hoosiers. A couple of my losses in this contest have been betting against Indiana. I'm going to go on the side of the Hoosiers this time. That's to let you know exactly what they're going to
do. You're finally going to the dark side. You're going to Indiana. All right, my man, that's good. All right, Tyler. Ole Miss off to Gainesville to take on the Gators. Ole Miss giving Florida 12.5 on the road.
This is a tricky one. This is a Florida team that obviously pulled off a huge win last week against LSU, and Ole Miss is sitting pretty comfortably right now. As long as they win the last 2 games, they're in the college football playoff even without going to the SEC title. I don't know if Florida can put together 2 good weeks in a row. I'll take Ole Miss.
I don't think Florida can put 2 good weeks in a row. Florida doesn't think they can put in 2 good weeks in a row. All right, BYU going to Arizona State. Arizona State giving 3. How about the job Ken Dillingham has done as a head coach in Tucson?
For sure.
Oh, and Tempe, not Tucson, Tempe.
Yeah,
Tucson's Arizona.
That's the other school.
That's the other school they don't talk about.
They don't like that very much.
They don't like each other. All right, I'm going to take Arizona State and give BYU 3. I think Arizona State wins this game by a touchdown and throws themselves in the conversation for the Big 12 championship and the automatic berth in the college football playoff. All right, Corey. Army and Notre Dame, Fighting Irish, or giving the Black Knights 14?
Yeah, this is another big one right here. This game right here will be played at Yankee Stadium, home of the American League champions. I am going to take the points with Army.
I see you're going with taking the big points this week, my man.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the points with the Black Knights. Listen. I don't know. I think this is a tough spot for Notre Dame.
All right, they're playing that funky offense. I mean, they rolled Navy, but Army's a tick better than Navy this year. All right, Texas A&M on the Plains, only giving Auburn 2.5. Something smells here, fellas.
Is that for me?
Yep, that's you, Tyler.
Yeah, weird things happened to Jordan Hare in November. Man, I don't know. This is a good A&M team. I know Elko slipped up and said they're looking ahead to Texas, but I think they'll be locked in. I think they'll get Auburn. So give me A&M to cover.
All right, I get Alabama giving Oklahoma 13.5 in Norman. Can Oklahoma score 13 points against Alabama?
They can't.
Yeah, I'm taking Alabama. I'll give Oklahoma 113 in this game. All right, fellas, we're locked and ready to roll, and we'll see how bad we were next week.
All right, everybody.
All right, Corey, we appreciate you, my man. That's Corey Parson, our wagering insider.
The professional. We're just a couple
schmoes.
That
We don't know what we're
we
doing.
just throw guesses out there and
We have
see
no
what
idea.
happens.
He's the pro with the numbers,
Hey,
and
this is why we're still doing this job, and we're not millionaires off the sports books, right?
I know. The guys who do this on a high level, the numbers they crunch are insane.
They should be the committee.
Why not?
I mean, they know more than everybody else, so why not?
There's a reason they have those big chandeliers.
There's a reason that the city of Las Vegas exists.
That's right. And there's a reason why most of us are broke after doing this mess.
We're all suckers to them.
Nice job, my friend. We'll wrap it up, pass it off to Jay and Elijah at Columbia Craft. The post-game show, hanging out on Green Street in the Vista, Tailgate Friday, and the Fall Festival at Columbia Craft is coming up next right here on The Game in Columbia, Florence, and Myrtle Beach.